Chapter 1. To be Known. Sherry Silk. One time our daughter, Brittany, drove through the drive-thru at the bank with her brothers in the car. They were laughing and having a good time together. When she pulled up to the window, Brittany placed her deposit slip and check into the little tube and sent it off. After the teller got it, she said over the loudspeaker, "Hi, Brittany. How are you today?" "Good, thanks," Brittany said. Then she turned to her brothers and said, "They know me here. I come here all the time." Her brothers snorted. "Yeah, right. They know your name because it's on your check, Brittany." We all want to be known. Like Brittany, we like it when people call us by name, but we also want to know that they accept us and even celebrate us. We need to be both recognized and received. It's great when people recognize us and know our names, but we long for more. We are hungry for evidence that they love us. We are longing for intimacy in our everyday lives. The same is true in our relationship with God. At the core of who we are longing to be known and to know that we are known by the one who created us. We have an innate need to be connected with God. David expressed this so well when he wrote, "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my anxious thoughts, and see if there be any hurtful way in me, and lead me in the everlasting way." Psalm 139, 23 through 24, New American Standard Bible. Search and know. When I gave my life to Jesus, I was only 21 years old, but prior to that, in my teen years, I had done a lot of damage to myself and to others. I got saved at the church that Bill Johnson pastored in Weaverville, and when I went forward to accept Jesus, I first asked Bill, "Will God want me if He really knows me?" I believed, as we so often do, that because I had done hurtful things, I was undesirable on the inside. I wanted to be known, but I was afraid that being known would result in being rejected. Other people had rejected me, and I thought God might too, especially once He saw how yucky I was on the inside. It is easy to read Psalm 139, 23, and feel afraid of the searching and knowing. But we don't need to. He's not searching in order to condemn us, but to cleanse us. The American Heritage Dictionary, 3rd edition, defines the word search as to hunt, to look for, to investigate, explore, rummage around. I love the thought of God rummaging around in my heart, helping me find the parts of myself that I've lost or overlooked. As a woman who has been to the doctor many times and given birth to 3 children, I know in a very personal sense what search means. Any mother will testify that once she's had a baby, she has nothing left to hide. The most intimate parts of her body have been bared to examination, and that privacy that she had before motherhood no longer exists. This is how we are with God. Our souls are bare before Him, and He examines us. One of my favorite scenes from the movie, The Last of the Mohicans, powerfully explains this concept. At one point, several of the characters are hiding in a cave behind a waterfall. However, the enemy is coming. The hero, Nathaniel Hawkeye, knows he must leave because his presence will cause the death of them all. However, he does not want to leave them behind, especially not the lovely Cora. So before he jumps down the waterfall, he urges her, "You be strong, you survive, stay alive. No matter what occurs, I will find you." That sort of intensity, that sort of searching is something our hearts long for. This is what God means when He says He will search us, and we don't need to be afraid of it. I like to say that intimacy means, into me you see. Really, it means, into me you see, because I showed you. It is an invitation to understand and to be familiar. Of course, we can argue that God already knows everything about us. He created us, and He is all-knowing. That is true. But it is also true that He designed His relationship with us in such a way that we need to talk to Him and share ourselves with Him. He doesn't want a robotic knowledge of us. Rather, the desire in God's heart is to listen to us as we talk to Him, as we willingly open ourselves to Him. He wants us to share our hearts with Him, to invite Him in to search and know. The truth is, we don't need to protect ourselves from God. After all, He is our provider and our protector, our friend and lover, our counselor and comforter, and it's actually to our advantage to welcome Him in. Our prayer should be, into me you see, Lord, because I showed you. I don't need to protect myself from you. Instead, come search me and know me. Be in charge of me and guide me. Be ahead of me and influence me. I trust you. No need to hide. As with all things, we have a choice. We can invite Him in, or we can say, "No way are you getting in here to my heart unless you forcefully enter." We don't need to be afraid of God searching. What will He find that He doesn't already know? Nothing. But God doesn't want head knowledge about us. He already has that. And what He knows hasn't scared Him off. Rather, He wants to experience us. He wants to be welcomed into our hearts, which is the only way to have true intimacy with Him, no matter how much He knows about us. So often, we try to protect ourselves from others, including God. Marriage is a perfect example. A wife may long for her husband to truly know her, but instead of inviting him in and telling him what she needs, she makes him guess. And when he gets it wrong, she takes it as proof that she needs to protect herself from him because he doesn't really know her. I used to do this with my husband, Danny, a lot. I would use anger to protect myself from him because it made me feel powerful. I didn't realize that anger is false power and that true strength means being honest about what's going on and what I need. For example, I used to get really angry at Danny when he would drive fast. I would yell at him, tell him the right way to drive, and tell him to consider the kids' safety. Though of course they love the fast driving. This just created a power struggle between me and Danny, and neither one of us was having fun. Eventually, though, I learned to look inside and ask myself why I was upset and what I needed. I realized that I didn't like Danny's fast driving because I didn't feel safe. And I found out that he responded a lot better when I told him, "You're scaring me, and I need you to slow down so I don't feel afraid," rather than simply yelling, "Slow down, you idiot! You're driving too fast." Do you know how to tell God what you're feeling and what you need? Do you know how to talk to Him like He's a person, like He's your best friend? He wants you to stop protecting yourself from Him and to welcome Him in instead. He's listening for your invitation to intimacy. He wants to be that close to you. Knowing His voice. John 10:11-14. Jesus gave us a picture of what he wants our relationship to look like. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. He who is a hired hand and not a shepherd, who is not the owner of the sheep, sees the wolf coming and leaves the sheep and flees, and the wolf snatches them and scatters them. He flees because he is a hired hand and is not concerned about the sheep. I am the good shepherd, and I know my own, and my own know me. New American Standard Bible. He wants to know us, and he wants us to know him. He wants us to recognize his voice when he calls, like a good friend who needs no introduction on the phone. We all have friends like that, whose voices we instantly recognize. Jesus wants to be one of those friends. The parable of the Good Shepherd reminds me of the time when Mary Magdalene first encountered Jesus after his death and resurrection. She didn't know he was alive, and she was standing by his tomb weeping for him. When she turned around, she saw Jesus but didn't recognize him, thinking he was the gardener. He asked her who she was looking for, but she still didn't recognize him, not until he said her name. Jesus said to her, "Mary." She turned and said to him in Hebrew, "Rabboni," which means teacher. John 20:16, New American Standard Bible. For whatever reason, Mary didn't recognize him until he said her name, until he declared, "I know you. I see you. I love you." Mary had invited Jesus into her life and had loved him extravagantly, so much so that Jesus chose her to be the first one to see him after his resurrection. He chose her even above Peter and John, the disciple Jesus loved, waiting until they had fled before he revealed himself. This is the sort of intimacy he longs for with each of us. And though it may feel scary, we don't need to be afraid. He will not fail us like people do. When we get close to people, we discover their limits. No matter how amazing they are, they can't always be there when we need them. One of my top love languages is quality time. When I get home from work, I need to fill Danny in on everything that has happened since I last saw him. He does a great job caring, but he has his limit. And sometimes I talk and talk until his eyes glaze over from too much information. He's just human. Fortunately, God doesn't have a quality time limit with me or with you. Instead, he is able to be all things to all people, to love us in the way that blesses us the most. Led by love. Connected to the idea of searching is the idea of leading. David ended his invitation to God to search me with the prayer, "And lead me in the everlasting way." Psalm 139:24, New American Standard Bible. The result of being searched and known by God is being led by his love. God doesn't want to drag us along. In fact, he refuses to do that. He wants us to follow him, to allow ourselves to be led by him because we love him. Jeremiah 31 prophesies God's desire for people who will not run from him, but who will follow him because of love. "Behold, days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not like the covenant which I made with their fathers in the day I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt. My covenant which they broke, although I was a husband to them, declares the Lord. But this is the covenant which I will make with the house of Israel after those days, declares the Lord. I will put my law within them and on their hearts. I will write it, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. They will not teach again, each man his neighbor, and each man his brother, saying, Know the Lord, for they will all know me, from the least of them to the greatest of them, declares the Lord. For I will forgive their iniquity, and their sin I will remember no more. Jeremiah 31 through 34, New American Standard Bible. God is looking for people who will have a love relationship with Him, not just a contract. Not only does He want to know us, but He wants us to know Him. He says, They will all know me. That is the end goal of His searching and knowing, that in that place of intimacy we would fall in love with Him and begin to follow Him because of love. Who do you say I am? In Matthew 16, Jesus showed us His desire to be known when He asked His disciples, Who do you say that I am? When Jesus came into the district of Caesarea Philippi, He was asking His disciples, Who do people say that the Son of Man is? So they said, Some say John the Baptist, and others Elijah, but still others Jeremiah or one of the prophets. He said to them, But who do you say that I am? Simon Peter answered, You are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus said to him, Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, because flesh and blood did not reveal this to you, but my Father who is in heaven. Matthew 16:13 through 17. New American Standard Bible. The people who didn't really know Jesus had their opinions. They had observed His actions and heard His words from a distance, and they had labeled Him incorrectly. They thought they knew Him, but they were wrong. Peter knew the right answer. He knew Jesus, and Jesus blessed him for being one who knew Him. You can hear the excitement in Jesus' blessing, the joy of being known. It is as though He is shouting, Finally, you see me. Finally, you are beginning to know and love me. Don Potter wrote a song about this called, Who Do You Say I Am? Years ago, I heard him sing it at a Morning Star conference in Florida. As he was singing the verse, the spiritual energy was building in the room. Children, come gather round. I have something I want to ask. We have loved those that didn't love first. We have tried to quench their thirst. The first line is Jesus speaking, and the second is the disciples' answer. The first goes on like this with several more questions and answers. All the while, the energy was building and building until Don Potter reached the chorus. He sang, Who do they say I am? Who do you say I am? Who do they say I am? Who do you say I am? Suddenly, the lights went out. The electricity in the entire building shut down right as we were about to sing out the answer to, Who do you say I am? The presence of God in that moment was incredible. It was like God was asking us that same question, inviting us to really know Him. No one could see anything, and we were terrified and on our faces wondering what was going to happen next. Just as suddenly, the electricity returned, and the band, who had continued to play even without their amps and microphones, picked up the song right where they had left off. Some say Elijah, some say John, but who do you say I am? You are the Christ. You are the Lord. You are Messiah, God of all. You are the Master of all men. Now I know I am. You are the Lord. God is asking, who do you say I am? Who is He in your life? Who do you tell people He is? We all long to be known for who we are. God is no different. He longs to be known by you. Real relationship. One day I talked with a man in his mid-30s, a very successful businessman who earns a triple-digit income. He has a nice family, and he provides for them very well. He told me about his dad, saying, "My dad always wants to know about my job. He wants to know about how much money I make, what I own, what I drive, but he never wants to know who I am." This man does drive a nice car, but that's not what he wants to be known and valued for. He'd rather his dad ask him about his heart, his thoughts, his dreams, the things that really define who he is. We can all relate to this desire to be known, not for our achievements or possessions, but because of who we are on the inside. We want love that sticks around, even when what we do or have is not that exciting. Fortunately, unlike this man's father, you have a father who cares about the real you and wants to search and know you intimately. He is awaiting your invitation. Have you talked with him recently? I mean, really talked with him. Or do your friends know you better than he does? You don't necessarily have to use words. God doesn't need words to speak to you. He communicates his love in many ways. Danny and I have a strong marriage. We've invested a lot of time and energy into making us work. And when we're sitting in a meeting and lots of other important stuff is happening around us, I can look into his eyes and feel his love for me without any words being spoken. We don't need words. When my mom was dying of cancer, toward the end, she couldn't talk very well. So I would just lay on her bed with her and look into her eyes. She would reach across the pillow and rub her thumb against my cheek. We didn't need words. A glance or a touch can say it all, can say, "I see you. I know you're here, and you matter to me. I know who you are and what you care about." We all have friends with whom we have this sort of connection. The question is, do we have this sort of connection with God? God knows everything about us already. But if we want that deep connection with him, we need to tell him the intimate things in our hearts. Knowing about a person is not the same as intimately knowing a person. We cannot keep secrets from God because he's God. But a relationship with him is always a choice. Knowing is about relationship, and that's why he wants an invitation. That's why he wants to hear the details of our thoughts and dreams from us. Greater access. One of the perks of intimacy is greater access. When I know someone well, I am allowed deeper. I am given special privileges in our relationship that not just anyone can have. Some people I keep at a distance. Some I allow a little closer, and others can come right in. The more I share my heart with a person, the more access that person has to me, because I trust that person really knows me and will protect the things that matter to me. When our kids were still living at home, they enjoyed full access to Bethel events. When Bethel would have a conference, our son Taylor would flip over his name badge, which was his ticket into the event, and write, "Danny Silk's son, all access." That meant he was no longer restricted to the main conference rooms, but he could go eat the food in the hospitality room if he wanted. He had full access because he was a son, and he wasn't afraid to take advantage of it. Children have an amazing revelation of this truth. They don't question, is this an okay time to climb into Daddy's lap? No, they just go for it. They know they have full access anytime. God wants us to know Him and be known by Him to that extent. He wants us to feel so comfortable in our intimacy with Him that we can just climb up in His lap anytime. As His children, we have full access to Him, and the deeper we go with Him, the more we find that His lap is the safest and best place for solving life's problems and finding healing. It is the very best place in the whole world. But if you feel afraid of intimacy, of being searched and known, you won't go there. You'll try to hide and protect yourself, and you'll miss out on access to the best relationship you could ever have. Don't miss it. Invite God to search you, to know you, and to lead you. No matter what's going on inside you, God is not afraid of it. Whether you're ashamed because of sin in your life, or you're bursting with dreams and ideas, He wants to hear it. He wants you to tell Him about yourself, to invite Him inside your guts. So stop being afraid of Him and realize who you are. He wants you to come to Him as a child with full access, because He wants to know you and to be known by you. He wants to give you His heart. Endnotes. Number 1. The Last of the Mohicans. Michael Mann, director. Asheville, North Carolina. Morgan Creek Productions, 1992. Based on the novel by James Fenimore Cooper. Number 2. Don Potter. Who Do You Say I Am? www.lyricstime.com/don-potter-who-do-i-say-i-m Accessed April 27, 2012.